Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk who will kill Alpha. I think there's two easy picks, Negan and Carol. Now Negan, first off, that's a no-brainer. In the comic book, spoiler alert, but there's a big moment between Negan and Alpha. And I think there's potentially stuff already set up to have Negan take that remix from the comic. However, looking back to something from episode 6 in season 9, there's just something that stands out, and it can't be a coincidence. It's as if it's foreshadowing what's to come, what kind of fate will befall on Alpha, and at whose hands. And in case you forgot, here's the scene.
Wait,
The ring I could let go? That stuff belonged to people I knew.
we found that stuff. We didn't do anything.
You hurt my son.
I swear you'll never see us again.
I know.
Now, if it is Carol that ends up killing Alpha, where does that leave Negan? Because we need the Negan redemption arc. That could give part of the story to Negan where he and Daryl needs to fight Beta. Daryl went one-on-one with Beta, and he almost didn't make it out of there. So it only makes sense to have Negan and Daryl, if that was a part of his redemption arc. However, who's going to let him out of jail before that redemption arc? Or are there any other possibilities for Negan to embrace a redemption arc? I think they already have one set up perfectly. In the comic, he saved Rick, and he helped him battle against the Whisperers. In the show, he's already building a bond with Judith. So instead of saving Rick, in the show, he can save Judith. But are they setting up something where it's not our heroes that let Negan out coming in season 10? I thought maybe they would push this into episode 16 of season 9, but I don't think there's enough time. Negan just doesn't get out of jail and kill Alpha. He's got to work his way into the good graces of the Whisperers, which I don't know if they're going to do that either, because a big part of it had to do with the fact that the Whisperers rape their own as a form of making them stronger in a twisted way. Now, we knew in the comic Negan was totally against rape. They did that on the show. So it was already set up that they would butt heads once he saw how they were really living. Looking back in retrospect, I don't think that even mattered. I think Negan knew what he was doing going in, and I'm talking about comic Negan. He had a plan. Now, and there is a chance, there's going to be a remix where maybe Alpha and Carol do have some sort of battle. It doesn't even need to be a one-on-one fist fight or nothing. It could be strategic on a battlefield, something like that between survivors and some Whisperers. However, what if they remix it in a way where Carol is very much going, and we very much believe she's going to kill Alpha. However, it's Negan who decides to bring Carol Alpha's head. In a way, it's kind of poetic and ironic. Alpha, we didn't even talk about this much in the comic, but there's a whole shitload of irony where Alpha beheads a bunch of survivors and creates a border. And then Negan crosses that border and says, yo, I was a prisoner. I want to be one of y'all. And then beheads her, takes her head back. In the comic, it was back to Rick. But on the show, he could bring that head to Carol as a way to show them he's willing to fight on their side against this new enemy. Now, again, I think it's set up perfectly already. We already have the puzzle pieces in place, so he can get a redemption, maybe protecting Judith. In the comic, remember in the show, there was a scene where Father Gabriel and Negan were trapped. Well, in the comic, it was almost the same thing, except for it was Negan who saves Rick in a herd of zombies, and then they made it inside and had a little moment because they were trapped together in a little thing. This could be Judith in a scene similar to that. But then how does Negan get out of jail? I don't think Michonne's just going to let him out. It depends on what happens in episode 16, but I think it's the Abercrombie and Fitch bitch. And I think there's a different type of remix coming that will be part what was in the comic and then part something new for the show. I think maybe it's the Abercrombie and Fitch dude who's mad that he lost his two friends, his only two friends in the zombie apocalypse. It's not like he, they're everywhere. He was close to them. He already started beef and conflict with Henry, trying to create a wedge between Henry and Lydia. So he probably doesn't like Lydia, probably hates Lydia, probably doesn't want her there. So in his eyes, he wants to hurt all of them. He doesn't care. And maybe Negan sees this. He lets Negan out of jail. Negan sees this as a threat to Judith, and he just kills him. Negan's not going to take time to talk to the kid or work through his problems. He's going to be like, yeah, your way's going to get Judith hurt. I'm going to gut you. It's just that simple. It would also leave fans wondering, well, wait a minute, he just stabbed a teenager to death. Maybe he isn't going to redeem himself. So I do think there's two prime candidates who will take out Alpha. Now again, if they set up something where there's this beef going on with Alpha and Carol, and we really think it's going to go that way, and maybe they even have a mini battle, or they could even slug it out a little bit, or Carol could stab her in the arm, or you know what I'm saying, they could have some type of moment on the battlefield, and then they can surprise us with Negan getting out and then having his comic book moment. Again, it feels like there's definitely stuff there where it would fit and it wouldn't seem like it would be too crazy of a remix. There's just something about it. I know in the comic it felt like it was too soon. It felt like we had this build-up going and then it was just cut short. So I'm really hoping they improve on it in some type of way. But they're definitely already maybe potentially misleading us with the Negan redemption arc being too similar to the comic, and then they'll throw us a curveball down the road where it's actually, in fact, Carol going head-to-head with Alpha right up until the end, and she's the one that kills Alpha, and Negan has a different redemption-type remix. I think that would be interesting to see some sort of switcheroo there, especially if you know what comic story is playing out. And I mean the whole thing entirely. Just hearing bits and pieces, none of that might even make it to the show. That's my pick. I think I'm going to wait until we see maybe episode 16, and then we'll have a better understanding, or at least an idea of what could be coming up in season 10. We might even get another little mini time skip. Again, they are filming in summer when they come back for season 10, so I doubt they'll be all bundled up like it is winter. So it'll be interesting to see what pops off in 16 and how that will shape the storytelling moving forward, and versus the original story and the remix story that they got going on. Now, those are my two picks. You guys can let me know down in the comment box below. Who do you think it's going to be that's going to kill Alpha? My number one pick, I'm leaning towards Carol. Originally, I was going to stick with Negan for the similar but remixed storyline for the comic, but I'm 70%. I'm leaning towards Carol, as that's what I think they're going to do. And then 30%, okay, maybe they will stick with how it is in the comics. Now, moving on to something that we got to shut it down early. I remember way back when Enid was a relatively new character, a lot of people thought she was a spy for the wolves. I get it, she was newer then, and we debunked that. But then a lot of fans thought she was a spy for the Saviors. At that point in time, I thought that was just insane, ass backwards insane. And I get the idea there is an out of nowhere shocker. People can have their jaws on the floor. I don't like those type of shocks because they come off as superficial and kind of cheap. And out of nowhere, we got another spy theory type story that Alpha left SIDDIQ alive because maybe he helped her, or we already saw there's enough whispers in that barn, and it was kind of already hinted that she had something set up where the whispers, we don't need SIDDIQ to betray them. It adds no value to that. So similar to the wild Enid as a spy theories, I think SIDDIQ's spy theory is going to end up the same way. There's just no weight, no value, no substance to it. I think if you listen to what SIDDIQ is saying at the very end, not only does it fit beautifully in the way they did it, where the last thing we see of those survivors aren't their decapitated heads on sticks, it's actually them after, badasses, fighting till the very end. You got Enid turning around, throwing her dukes up. ready to shoot the 5. You got a nice scene with the score, and then Henry sharing a look with Alpha right before the moment. It's just a lot better than having the last visual of those heroes just decapitated heads. I think that played a role in how the writer shaped the ending, but also what SIDDIQ said. His message in Alpha's mind was going to split them apart and scare them to their core. But the story he wanted to tell instead was of the Highwaymen, a new group that did not have enough time to form deep bonded friendships and become like family with this group. And then DJ, who was an ex-savior, who became a part of the group. They found them before they were executed, and they gave the other survivors, the captives, an opening to run away and save themselves. DJ and them didn't go get help. They didn't leave them and go get backup or run away and say we were outnumbered. As soon as they found the survivors and they were in trouble, they attacked. They gave them an opening, and I think the most telling part is what SIDDIQ says next. Instead of running and taking that opening and every man for themselves and save yourself type deal, they all, every single one of them, they all stayed and they fought together. And I think story-wise, that is the most important thing, and that fits. It has substance, it has weight to it. It comes together beautifully with the score and the part of the story that they're telling there. I've watched the end of episode 15 like 4 or 5 times now, and I think it gets better each time. It is just so beautifully done. I don't believe SIDDIQ is a spy. I don't think there's any substance to that. If they did make him a spy, it feels cheap. And again, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of value or weight to it. Having what SIDDIQ says, though, be truthful and have a purpose to it, there's substance there. You already see it, you can hear it, and it does something for our survivors and for the episode itself, ending in that way before it transitions over to a mourning Lydia and Daryl, because then she leaves her necklace on the post and you see the snow coming down. So it was beautifully done, and I don't think he's a spy. You guys can put your thoughts and opinions down below if you think he's a spy or not. I'm gonna have to say no. I'll risk looking like a fool if it comes out that he is a spy, because, again, I feel like that is just a cheap way to get a shocking moment. Like, oh, I didn't, no, not SIDDIQ. You put your thoughts and opinions about who do you think is going to kill Alpha, and also, do you believe SIDDIQ is a spy or not? Put those thoughts and opinions in the comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn.